I'm going to take just a brief moment to welcome each and every one of you to the homegoing service of Sharen and Neal. And if I can make one little comment, no one ever forgets people that care about them. And you'll say, I'm just one in the midst of somebody. Oh, that's not true. People never forget those who genuinely care about other people. And I've been familiar with this oft times, of course, but I'll stand at the door and I'll watch somebody walk in. I see a family's face just light up. Just, wow, this is so good. They never forget. We live in a troubling world. We look out there and see many things happening. But I'm saying people like you is what brings stability and kindness. I want to say thanks for being just a wonderful, wonderful group of people. And thanks for coming today and being a part of this here. I'm simply going to pray and to begin, and then we're going to have Kevin come, and we're just going to have the family members. We're going to talk a little bit about family and Sharen. Father in heaven, I pray today that everyone just have the exact right words to say. Not for the words themselves, but for the heart of it. No one's looking for a speech. No one's looking for some oration. They're just looking for people who genuinely care. So we're going to hear about Mom. We're going to hear about a potter who helped the clay and to form a family. We're going to hear about a wonderful lady. Someone even called her salty. I love that adjective. It's amazing. What a lady. So, Father, may she not really pass. May she live on through these dear people. Bless this day. For Christ's sake, I pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Kevin, if you'll come this morning, please, that'd be great.
Thank you, Pastor Rule, and thanks for your family friendship. Thanks especially for sending prayers and good vibes to me on the golf course a few weeks ago when John and I were playing. I beat him with some sort of divine intervention. Keep it fair, as Rodney Dangerfield would say in the famous movie Caddyshack. Good morning, friends and family of Sharen Neal, my mother of 29 wonderful years. Okay, so that's 29 years, right? She always said that she'd get to 29, never past that age. So the math didn't quite work out. So that's the first rule. She wanted us to celebrate her life and have fun and have great memories and talk about her legacy. She requested that we maintain a sense of humor, and she had that line of 29 years for 50 years. Yep. She sure did. So today, let's have fun, let's laugh, let's share memories, let's celebrate the life together, and all the rest of the days to our fullest. What a wonderful place to celebrate the life, memory, and legacy of my mother.
Good. Very good.
For my talk today, I want to use a simple analogy of potters and clay to memorialize my mother. I was in this very church a couple months ago when Pastor made a talk from Jeremiah 18 about potters, and clay. And that's the analogy I want to use for my mother's life and legacy today. Sharen Neal was the potter, and us as her children, Paul, Amy, Jenna, John, Rochelle, Daphne, and Matt in heaven, we are the clay. So Mom was the potter, we're the clay. And John, there were signs. So this is one of John's creations. I don't know how many years ago, right? Couldn't have been that long ago because Mom was 29 and you've got to be something considerably less. So this was one of John's pottery creations a long time ago. So you could see he was forming a foundation. So the analogy is that the potter is takes clay and creates a beautiful, strong exterior outside. And that's what my mother was. She was a person of strong conviction, very much compassion. So that's the analogy I'm going to use today. Our brother Matt is in heaven, and he's with us in spirit. Mom had an incredible way of molding this clay. So each of us were in very different backgrounds. John, Matt, Paul, we all lived different places, had different interests, but she let us do our own thing. And that was most wonderful, to let us explore life and make mistakes, but learn from it and build beautiful families from it. So that was really a great legacy. Mom is reunited with Matt in heaven. Gary and Lee, I know you had a special relationship with Mom. That was very, very special. She loved you very much. She spoke to you often. As you obviously know, your dad, my mom, brothers and sisters, they had an incredible bond. She misses you tremendously. But I'm glad to know they're together. It's been a long time. You get the award for the furthest travel, Lee, especially. It's a long drive. So thanks for being here. I know you guys wouldn't miss it.
Good.
Kim and Auntie Pat, the Haley family is so precious. We met another Pat Haley today, too. So amen, beautiful family. Love you guys so much. You guys are a wonderful family. We had so many fun times together. Mom, Dad were there. Oh my gosh, so many great memories. We love you. Aunt Pat, you're a potter too. You're molding these different clays. Kim's just one of them. And you've let your kids, develop their own lives and their own interests and do their things. And God bless you. You're a fabulous, fabulous person, a great family. It warms my heart to know that eventually we'll all be together in heaven with Uncle Al, having a barbecue around the pool, just like we always used to do, right? So thanks for coming. My mom was a person of passion. She had passion for causes. So I'm going to tell you about a couple of them. She was an accomplished person in business, and especially in her personal life. And she was passionate about these causes. Brandy, my wife, will talk about some of her career and some of her specific achievements. John will talk about that. Rochelle will talk about that. So today I want to talk about how Mom's legacy connected us and how she had a positive influence on community and people's lives and people's interest. Three of the important initiatives in her life were the Cleft Parent Group, NAMI, and my thriving paper route business. Empire, actually. It wasn't just a business. So my wife, Brandy, John, Rochelle, they'll come share more details about Mom's history, but I want to talk about the future of how my mom's legacy influenced us all. I'm so honored to spend a few valuable minutes to talk about the legacy and connecting us all together today in a celebration of life. This is a great example of how she, as a potter, can have such a positive influence on the future of all of our lives with us as her clay. The first passionate cause that I remember started the day I was born. I was born with a minor cleft lip, and my mom and dad were really hysterical. They were like, they were terrified. They're afraid that I was going to be, have problems, and they didn't know what to do. So they got me good care, and I got my lip taken care of, but she joined the Cleft Parent Group because she couldn't get all the resources and she couldn't get the information. So this was a cause. She joined Cleft Parent Group, and now you see TV commercials about it, and it's a big, big deal. It causes millions and millions of kids have cleft palates, cleft lips. So she joined the group, and I don't know how many years she was involved, 15, 20 years, but she helped create awareness for cleft lips, cleft palates, and really drive home this awareness to help kids all around the world, not just locally. But that was a cause. She joined that, and and she left a great legacy. I'm very happy she did that because she uncovered some things that helped the local community clean up their water and clean up pollution. So I don't know how many lives and potential birth defects that she helped avoid by her advocacy. So that was really great for her to be part of Cleft Parent Group. The next cause was the National Association for Mental Ill. So our youngest brother, Robert Matthew, he was having problems mentally and struggling, and he needed help. And Mom wanted to get him that help, but so she went to the National Association for Mental Ill and was finding they were greatly understaffed, under-resourced. So she joined NAMI, and she was an advocate for, of course, Robert, but all other kids that were struggling with mental illness. It was a big, big problem. So she did that. And I'm very proud to share, when she retired from NAMI, she got in grateful appreciation for many years of dedication and service as advocate and more for NAMI Placer County. So she got this, she was so proud of it. Yep. And she helped a lot of people that need help. So that was NAMI. Then the last cause, which was very personal, not changing the world, but this was my newspaper route empire. So I started with one route like a kid might do. I had a bicycle, had a basket on the front, and I'd pedal it, put my papers in, and I could do maybe 50 houses in an hour or two. And I did that, but I have an entrepreneurial spirit just like my dad and mom did. And so eventually I got more routes and I couldn't pedal it, so I got a moped. And I got some saddlebags, put it over the seat, and motored the route, so I could do maybe 5 times the route. So I had a couple hundred houses to deliver to. So that's going fine in the summertime. It's really nice, good weather. But when it got rainy or the moped would break, then I couldn't pedal it realistically. It was impossible. So Mom would come to the rescue. She would get the station wagon, fire it up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'd pile all the papers in the back of the station wagon, and she would gladly just drive me around half of San Jose delivering papers to my hundreds and hundreds of customers. So she never complained getting up early and driving me around. It was really, really wonderful. She really got involved in my business and helped my thriving newspaper empire really succeed. So that was really fun. So those were 3 examples of her passion for causes. Life is like sliding doors, and moments in time bring everlasting friendships, and that's evidenced by everybody here. I personally don't believe that things just happen by coincidence or accident. There's a bigger purpose. There's a plan. We might not understand it in the moment. Like, Mom, I'm going to heaven. I might not like it, but it happens. So there's a movie, Sliding Doors, and when one door closes, another door opens. And I'm going to give you a few examples of that today. So over the past few months, I was making trips from San Jose, where I live, up to Chico, back and forth. And I would stay at Mom's house, and I'd pull in the driveway at crazy hours, like 11 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the morning. I was trying to avoid the traffic is what I was doing. But so the neighbors must have like, who in the heck is this guy? He's like a CIA agent doing some like covert operation, or I don't know what they were thinking, but so that was probably the first reaction from the Cleves Court crew. So I can imagine they're like, what the heck? But eventually these became friends, and we're connected forever because of Mom's legacy. Everyone on Cleves Court has been terrific. You've all been a friend to Mom. And specifically, I just want to call out a few of the Cleves Court people, because this is really the connection that I have personally to the local community. And I'm going to go in, and to be fair, I'm going to go in the house number order, because they're all equally great people. So let me start with Rob and Kara. Thank you so much for such empathy and your compassion during our many conversations. We have so much in common, it's really incredible. So thank you so much for everything you do. You're terrific people, so thank you so much. Seth and the Mandel crew. You guys, crazy crew. You're a ton of energy and a lot of fun. And thanks for not killing me with the rocket incident. So one of the first times I was here, I was pulling in the driveway, I didn't know anybody. And I opened my car door, and a rocket lands on the lawn like 5 feet from me. It's this long, it's embedded in the ground like 3 inches. I'm like, oh my gosh, the North Korea is bombing us finally or something. And I turn around, and there's about 15 kids running towards me to retrieve their rocket, but they stopped at the property line because they didn't know me, I didn't know them, they didn't know how I was going to react. But after a few minutes, we were like, oh yeah, come retrieve the rocket. Long story short, about an hour later, I was over with them actually helping with the trajectory and saying, you know what, you might want to angle this because the wind's bringing it over in my yard. So thanks for allowing me to mission control and getting those rockets going in the right direction. So thank you very much. Aaron and Tamara, where are you guys? Oh, thank you so much. You guys were the first instrumental introducing me to the rest of the court. So thank you so much. You guys are awesome people, incredible. I remember the flea market, the garage sale. Someone to come over and get the tunnel for the animals. So that was a lot of fun. You made me feel right at home. Thank you for introducing me to the rest of the crazy crew. I loved our conversations. I loved the garage sale. I loved the items that you had for sale. So get it ready. I'm coming over tomorrow morning. Okay? And last but not least, Nicole, thank you for literally being the next door neighbor and being so helpful. These little things were very important. So all the things that you've been doing and have done for my mom, thank you for being there for her. Thank you very much. So I tell these stories of the Cleves Court crew because Mom's legacy made these forever connections. Mom's gone to heaven, but we're going to maintain these relationships and these friendships. And that's just a simple example of these are going to be forever. So that's really wonderful. And I want you guys all for that. I want you to be the potters for your children. And it's wonderful to see everybody. Everybody's got a lot of kids on that court, so that's wonderful. Okay, so lastly, I want to talk about Mom Neal blessing of the furry four-legged kind. As some of you know, Brandy and I, we were at full capacity with our animals. We'd already adopted 2 cats, we'd already adopted 2 dogs, and we were like, that's it. You can't have any more. You're not even considering another animal. But my mom had a cat, JC, for just cat. Very simple. He was a 7-year-old male cat, and she'd been living with him for 7 years, and he needed to be rehomed after Mom went to heaven. So Brandy and I, of course, wanted him, but we're like, can he really integrate with 2 cats and 2 dogs? And we couldn't realistically, affect their lives with another animal, although we wanted to. But anyways, we brought him home, and we slowly introduced him to the rest of the animals. And there was a few fisticuffs at first, but overall, he's adjusted to the family perfectly. They all have different personalities, and really, I see my mom through JC. So every day, she's living through him, and it's really beautiful. It really is, and he's integrated so nicely. So that was really wonderful. So after 2 months of slow integration into the Neal barn house, I'm pleased to report that our 20 deadly claws paws, 5 wagging tails, and fur balls galore, that Mom's legacy through JC lives with us on a daily basis. It's really like Mom is channeling her positivity and support through JC. It's so heartwarming that both Brandy and I just really are so grateful to have him as part of our family. So, in summary, I hope you've learned a little bit about Mom's passion for causes, Cleft Parent Group, NAMI, Paper Routes. I want to thank you all for your support and friendship. And most importantly, I hope Mom's story and legacy encourages everyone to know you're the clay. You're clay, but you're also potters. You're leaders. You're molding your family. You're influencing community and society. So that's a big responsibility, but it's wonderful. So with that, build a beautiful life for yourself, for your children, your family, your friends, your community, just like Mom would do. There's no better thing to leave a great legacy. You can't take boats, you can't take money, you can't take cars with you, but your legacy lives on forever. So God bless you all. Love you. I would now like to invite my wonderful and extremely patient wife, Brandy, to the podium. to give you all some amazing insight from Brandy's experience, knowing my mom over 20 years. This ought to be fun, Brandy, but please keep those skeletons that Mom and you have on me in the closet.
I'm not good at this, so don't expect that. I'm not good at this. So, when my parents passed away, I'm using that experience as to what I would have liked as a child and what I did receive from the people around me as a child. And I would like, it has meant so much to me, and I want to give it back to John and to Kevin and to Rochelle and to everybody in the room and to Daphne. And so it's all based on the biggest lesson I ever learned from Sharen, and it was all about history. I think a lot of us, when we think of her, we do think of history. It was such an amazing, it was a catalyst in her life. It was, her compassion for it. She knew everything about the entire family, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And so, as we travel through life, each person we encounter comes to know in a unique version of who we are. Whether it's a spouse, a child, family, or friends. So today I'd like to share the version of Mom Neal I know. Through other comments made by others, I'll try to bring a couple of very important people to her into the room so that you can kind of get a little snippet of what they meant to her and what she meant to them. So Dad Neal was very reticent. He was so quiet. She would often say, "Floyd, are you in the room?" And she would just look right at him and go, "Floyd, are you in the room?" He was just quiet and he didn't say a lot. And so, but when he did, we all listened and we all took very much to heart the things that he said. And there were times when he would come forth, and sometimes he would say something that was very not Dad Neal-like, but then it was absolutely just like Dad Neal. And this is something that he said to me about 17 years ago, and I've never, ever forgotten it. And he said to me, when they were going over how they had met, and we were walking past each other in the hallway, and I said, "Dad Neal, come on, tell me why. Why'd you marry her?" Like that, because they had been teasing each other about why they had gotten married. And he said, "Brandy," he said, "I stayed a bachelor for a long time." And he said, "I remember the first time I saw her." And he said, "I just looked at her and I thought, you know what? She's a little different. She's a little different." And they were living in the same apartment complex. And he got her attention. He didn't know really how. I don't think he understood it. But then they had met at a restaurant that was across the street from IBM where she worked. And he said, "I remember sitting there and I remember thinking just how great she was to the waitress." And he said, "People aren't kind to servers, but kind people are kind to everybody." And he said, after that, I really took an interest in her because of how she treated that person that was waiting on her. And he said, I married her because I knew in that moment she would be a good mother. And he said, I wasn't wrong. She's a great mother, and she's been an amazing mother to our children. And I've never forgotten that. And it was a very profound moment. And so I think he would share that if he was here today. I think he would say she was a good mother. And to know Dad Neal is to know that meant the world to him, that she was a good mother. And so another moment happened with, I call him Matt because he asked me to, and Robert Matthew Neal. We were sitting out in the back. We have each house, it's a different location. So we have Escalonia, Casa de Neal, Escalonia, or we have Casa de Neal, Colfax. We were at Casa de Neal, San Jose. Johnston, and Matt and I were sitting out back, and we were cutting up some fruit for a picnic, and he said, I was like, I love the relationship that you and your mom have. It's fun. You guys are like friends. And after he said this to me, I was very close to my mother, and when he said this to me, I was like, you know what, I'm going to go write this down, because someday she's going to need this. She's having a bad day. She's, whatever, but someday she's going to need this. And so after his funeral, I gave this to her about 3 days later, right before she went back home. And this is exactly what Matt said to me. He said, my mom's special. And he said, she knows when to be my friend and when to be a mom to me. And I need that, and I know it. He said, and she's good at it. And he said, if I want to go to the beach, she will grab blankets and we'll go. She knows all the constellations, and we lay there and we trace them out. And we have a great time. And he said, Mom helps me make sense of my life. And I think, again, that brings him into the room and lets you know that version of her that Matt knew. So over the years, Mom, Neal, and I took countless walks together in her beloved forest at Colfax. She knew every square inch of the land. She would point out places where her memory lived. And she would say, this John here, and this Matt here, and Floyd this here. She had memories of planting trees with Robert. She had memories of walks that she took just to clear her head, and where she would go and sit. We went over memories of her boys and the shenanigans that they got into, the tree houses that tried to be built, and the memories of sitting on the back patio with Dad Neal. And she would say, we just sit there, and I sit down. He puts his arm around me, and she said, we just glide in total silence. And that's because he was her safe place. And he was the place where she could be, where she didn't have to be a mother, and she didn't have to be somebody's friend, and she didn't have to be solving somebody's problem. They got to be Sharen and Floyd, and they just sat there in comfortable silence. And she said, that's something I want for all of my kids, is I want them to sit with their spouses and be able to not have to say something. I want them to just sit there, just do nothing, just listen to nothing. So now my memories of her live on the Colfax property, and it's where our family is rooted for me. Every Thanksgiving dinner, every Just Because visit, it's where Mom, Neal, and I solved all the world's problems, she would say. Every time we walked in the door, Dad would say, what have you guys been doing? And she'd say, oh, nothing, we're just solving the world's problems. And he would just shake his head. It's where we ran across the ridge for our lives as we were taking a walk, and all of a sudden this ungodly odor hit us, and she looked right at me and she's like, run, skunk. And a vulture flew over with a skunk, and we were just running and laughing. And Dad Neal and Kevin came out to find out what was going on, and Dad Neal turned around, and he and Kevin went back inside, and they locked the door behind us and said, you guys are not getting in. And she sat there and she just laughed and laughed and laughed. She thought that was just so funny, and it was just such a great memory of her because she had a great laugh. She really did. Sorry, excuse me. I remember when she called me and she said that she was leaving the hill. And she's like, I don't know if I can do it. I really don't. And I said, but you can always go back. And she said, I don't want to sell the house. I said, you don't have to sell the house. That's your house. That's where you belong. That's your kids' home. That's where they know you. That's where the safety is for the family. And she said, when I leave there, she goes, I know I'll never be able to go back. I'm not going to be able to move back there. And we cried and we cried and we cried. And I said to her, you have to make a decision whether you want to be safe and that you want to be okay. And we know that if something goes wrong, we can get to you.
Yeah, sure.
Or you have to go, okay, I'm going to stay here. But how is this? And she completed my sentence and she said, how is it going to affect my kids if they walk up here and I'm not here? I've fallen somewhere, whatever. And I said, I think that's everybody's biggest fear. And she called me back the next day and she said, I'm going to do it. She said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to leave the hill. And she did. And I don't think that she was quite prepared for the happiness that she found here in Chico. I think she was so used to just being in Colfax that she had forgotten what it was like to let her kids go, because now she went home to her kids. And I don't think she expected that. And about a week before she passed away, we actually talked about that. And I said, can you imagine all the joy that you've gotten in the last few years, you know, of Daphne? I mean, Daphne means the world to her. Daphne is, I mean, our conversation, I can't remember a conversation since she's been born that didn't include Daphne in some aspect. You know, I mean, I remember there's a slide that I made. She said to me, she said, Daphne's here, Daphne's here. She called us. And we were like, you know, is everybody okay? You know, she's like, oh my gosh, you know, they're terrific. And she said, I cried last night because I've never seen John so peaceful. And then she said, he's not gonna like the drum set I'm about to buy her. And so that's something I want to give to you, and that's why, you know, I put it in the presentation, because that was classic Sharen. It just was. And I just want you to know how much you gave to her and how much happiness you gave to her. So I didn't mean to take us long. I didn't think it would take me this long to get it out, and I apologize. But I'm just gonna go straight to the bottom, because I think the most important part is the ending of what I wanted to do here. So just over a week before Mom passed, she and I had a very long conversation. And she was giving me marching orders in her I'm not telling you what to do way, but I'm telling you these are the things I want you to keep in mind. Because she wasn't somebody that would just sit there and go, I want you to do this, or you need to go to, that's not the way she operated. She operated in, here are your choices, pick your battles, and then go forward. And that was just how she just kind of taught to you. And so what she had said to me, one of the comments reminded me, she said to me, when I am gone, your main job is to now take care of Kevin. Because he's going to feel it when I'm not here anymore, even though he's been out of the house for 30 years. And she said, because that's just what, if I've done my job, that's the way that they will feel. So what she said to me was, these are the things I want you to share with Kevin and with John. If you find that you need to, if you find that you have the time to do it, if you think that it is appropriate, and I think that it is appropriate. So she said, please tell them, remember you are loved, even if Mom and Dad are not here. Remember we are proud of you and always have been. And that was something that she said all the time. They never knew anything else. She was always proud of them. Dad was always proud of them. I don't want you to be strong if you don't feel that you can. Don't get stuck in your grief. We raised you to be strong men to move forward in your own time. And the last thing that she said was very important. She said, please let them know I'm okay with going to be with Floydie and Robert. It's what I want, you know. She would always, you know. There's not a lot left for me to do here. When you get as old as I am, it becomes a waiting game, and I'm really fine when it comes. And then just in closing, and this is just from me directly to John and to Kevin and to Rochelle and to Daphne. And that is that a couple of days after Mom Neal passed away, I think the realization of Kevin just getting home and being able to breathe, and he just out of nowhere looked at me after a couple of days of just, calming down. And he said, "How do you do this? How have you sat here all this time and been able to get through the days knowing that your parents are not here anymore?" And so what I said to him, I want to share with you because I think it's important that you guys know. I said to him, it's because they loved me so well and they made so many memories for me. And you will find over time that comes back to you. And you will find that when you think of her again, you will laugh about all the weird things that she did that embarrassed you as a kid, or just things that you hadn't thought of in 30 years. But it's because they loved you so well that they set you up to handle them not being here. That's what parents do. And so I just want to thank everybody for being here, and I appreciate your time.
Hi, everybody. When I met Sharen and Floyd, unfortunately, it was in kind of a stressful situation, as Floyd was unfortunately in the hospital at the time. But I'll never forget Sharen open just the amount of kindness and just warmth and open arms that she gave me, even in the hospital in a stressful situation, was overwhelming. And I felt very much at ease. And after our short time in the hospital there, of just getting to know the two of them, before I left, Floyd said, "Are you going to marry my son?" We had only been dating for a couple of months, and I said, well, let's see. And Sharen said, "Floyd, don't scare her off. I actually like this one." And which gave me a lot of comfort. And then the next time I was able to be in their presence, I went to their home in Grass Valley, and she, again, just made me feel so comfortable in their home, and even allowed me graciously to cook in her kitchen for them, which, as most women know, is a big deal. And she opened her, and she just openly shared her life with me, and of course, endless stories about John growing up, which were always usually mischief. She had an absolute love for all of her boys, and she often told me that she loved being the queen of the castle with all of her boys. She was a jokester. That woman, she told me that she found this dress for our wedding, and she found it at the Salvation Army, and started describing this horrible sounding dress, and I just smiled through it thinking, okay. She even went so far as to buy this dress and to put it on when we were getting ready for the wedding. And I thought, oh, she really bought that dress. I left the room to go get some pictures done, and when I came in the back in the room, she was in this purple floor-length dress, and she looked absolutely stunning that day. And I looked at her, and I smiled, and I complimented the dress, and she just gave me a wink, and I just knew in that moment, she got me. She got me. It was an absolute blessing to have such an amazing mother-in-law. She always told me that she would never meddle in our marriage, and she never did. Instead, she was always an incredible support and confidant. And I'm only sad that I only got to have her in my life for 7 years. After Floyd went to heaven, John and I worried daily about her being in Grass Valley by herself. And she did have a fall, and once I knew that I was pregnant, I was able to talk her into moving to Chico. Want to be in this baby's life more. And we were able to have her move here, and we started our own traditions, having her over once a week for dinners. Sometimes I would cook, sometimes she would cook, and sometimes she'd say, "We both need a night off, let's go out." Those were my favorites. She was so open with her compliments to me, always telling me that I looked nice or that my food was good, but especially my favorite was when she told me that I was a good mom. And that meant everything to me. I'm so grateful to our trip to Oklahoma last year. She told me it would be her last, and unfortunately, it was. Our time together on that trip was so incredibly special. I had made her get into a wheelchair at the airport with Daphne in her lap and bags hanging out the back, and driving them through the airport, all three of us just giggling about how this, and she kept saying, "This is the way to travel." She had just a pure joy and connection to my daughter, Daphne. The two of them loved hanging out, and the first year and a half of her life, she would come over every Friday for about 3 hours and watch Daphne so that I could get some work done. I know that Mom Neal loved those moments with Daphne so much, and it meant everything to me too. The day before she passed, she told me how grateful that she was to my family for never making her feel like a third wheel. She told me that she always felt a part of our family, and that just made me feel so happy. The last day in the hospital Sunday, her and I had about 2 hours of wonderful conversation. She continued to give me gifts of words that will be with me for a lifetime. Then she asked me to do something. Daphne had made her the sweetest drawing and that we had brought into the hospital, and it had a rainbow on it, and it had hearts, and it was just full of love for Nana. And Mom told me that that was her favorite picture, and that she wanted me to make a little arrangement for Daphne and to write her a card. And I said, "Well, what do you want the card to read?" And she said, "Thank you, Daphne, for all the pictures you've drawn me over the past months. This rainbow picture is my favorite. I love it, and I love you. Love, Nana." Unfortunately, she had passed that next morning, and so when we picked Daphne up from school that day, on that Monday, when we told her of her passing, we brought that arrangement and that card for her, and that we let her know that Nana was thinking about her till the very end. The morning of her passing, she called me at 7:19 a.m. I answered the phone on speakerphone so that John and I could both talk to her, as I assumed she had maybe tried calling him first, and maybe we didn't hear the phone ring. She said, "John, I want to talk to Rochelle in private. Is that okay?" Of course, John said, and I went in the other room to talk with her. The words that she shared with me that morning are just so special, and they're just between us. And our relationship was so special, and that will stay with me forever. And I'm just so grateful that she chose to call me that morning to be able to have those last words and to be able to, in a way, say goodbye to me, because I think she knew that was it. Shortly after she passed, so those of you who know, she had different homes, and we were looking for some information on one of her homes in Sacramento, and I was in her office trying to find a name and a phone number, and I couldn't find anything anywhere, and I had been looking for like 20 minutes, and I just looked up and I said, "Okay, I need some help, Mom." And then John called and he said, "I'm on my way home," and I said, "I'll look for it later." So I went home, and I wasn't home for more than 5 minutes. And I was standing in the kitchen, and we had her cell phone. And all of a sudden, her cell phone starts ringing. And I'm like, do I answer this? I did decide to pick it up, and I said, "Hello," and she said, "Sharen?" I said, No, may I tell her who's calling?" And she said, "Well, this is her, her renter is down in Sacramento." And I looked up and I said, "Thanks, Mom." So even after the grave, she's still talking to me, and I totally appreciate that. In closing, I just want to share that, as you all know, before she passed, she had quadruple bypass surgery. And as you know, when you have a surgery like that, they give you a heart pillow. And that heart pillow just becomes a part of that person for months. And she was never without it. Our family has it now, and Daphne sleeps with it almost every night. I made this floral red heart for a few reasons. Firstly, to signify the pillow, but also to show her love for us and our love for her. The different textures represent the different stages of life, the paths that we go down, people that come in and out of our lives, and how they all relate to each other. I am grateful that God chose John for me so that I could have the perfect mother-in-law, even if it was for a short time. Thank you.
Well, I'm the crier of them all. Just so you know, in full disclosure, if anybody knows me, they know I am. So, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for being here. I really, truly do. Everybody sitting in here has meant something in my life, in the past, currently, and I just want to thank you so much for coming. Some traveled far, some are close, but nonetheless, every single one of you means something to us, and from the bottom of my heart, if I didn't get the opportunity at the door, I want to say thank you. We love you all individually. I want to thank Pastor Rule for everything you've done for our family. I mean, I know you did our dad's service 6 years ago. It seems you married us. I just want you to know from the bottom of my heart that the Neals love you, and we always will. So thank you. Thank you for what you've done. Mom was a hard worker. Kevin and I have quite the work ethic, as I'm sure that our wives will say. Mom was a real estate agent, and before her and Dad went into business, she was pretty savvy at selling homes, flipping homes, whatever vernacular you want to use. But Mom would always rent to the less desirables. And I mean that in the fact that people needed help. Let me kind of follow up with that. She would take their check and their first rent check would bounce. And I'm like, Mom, you got to throw these people out. But my mom wouldn't, because she would see the heart in somebody. And inevitably, you know, they don't pay their rent or whatever, a couple months go by, a couple weeks, but I just always thought to myself, first and foremost, my dad would have kicked them out immediately. So they were just diabolically different day and night. But my mom had a heart for people, and people had an explanation, and but I just thought to myself, man, I wish I had that in me. And I remember being a kid, and every time we get one of these, some people out, they poke holes in the wall, we had to change the carpet, we're over at this house cleaning it up. Lo and behold, they rent to the same type of people, my mom did. And again, God bless her for doing it, because at the time I was like, as a kid, a young kid, younger than Daphne's age, thinking to myself, what are you doing? But again, I stand here as an adult now and go, amen, because the world needs people like that, because we don't have people like that. To say that Mom and Dad were fiscally conservative, or I'll even use potentially the adjective frugal, is an understatement. I'm going to say my folks were cheap, and it's okay. We grew up with B-R-E-A-D in big 50 bold font. We knew nothing about Wonder Bread. We drank S-O-D-A in a white label with black. We didn't know anything about Pepsi or Coke, but you know what? I didn't at the time know that Mom and Dad were successful business owners, owning homes and tucking money away so Kevin and I could live the life that they want to live. Not to say that Mom and Dad, that we didn't enjoy ourselves, we did, but I remember Mom all the time saying that she would see the neighbors getting new furniture and new carpet and whatnot, and we just knew life. I mean, we didn't struggle, but we just didn't live the lap of luxury. And it's a blessing for what they've given to Kevin and I to pass on to Daphne because of the life that they lived. And I think it's just, it encompasses the people that they were. Kevin touched a little bit on Gary being a middle child. My mom was a middle child as well. She was the middle of 3 kids. I'm the middle of 3 boys. And she always just said that us middle kids have to stick together. Now, anybody in the audience that's a middle kid will probably grin, and we're not the baby, but we're not the firstborn. We're kind of in the middle. Yes, shenanigans is a good word for it. But I was the middle kid. You open a dictionary, 100%. Always getting into trouble, trying to get attention. But Mom and I always had that bond, and it really, truly was a bond that we had as middle kids. It was great. I loved it. Mom and Dad were absolutely definitively insistent upon an education when we graduated high school, without a doubt. They always said, it's not a matter of where you're going, it's a matter of or if you're going to college, you are going to college. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We moved my senior year up to Colfax, and Kevin and Brandy and Rochelle have talked about it. And we lived up there for a couple years. And Mom just loved living up there in the mountains and the trees. It was her cup of tea. She had found home. And when she moved up there, I started going to college. And Mom and Dad made the diabolical error of saying, John, as long as you go to college, we'll go ahead and take care of it. Well, I took that to heart. As the college friends laugh. 7 years later, I graduated with my BA, and finally they're like, great, well, I want to enroll into grad school because I like college so much. So 4 years later, I finally get my master's. And they're like, all right, we're done. We're cutting you off. Well, I had the bright idea to move to Texas to get a PhD because they told me. So we go to Texas, and I was out there, and life happened, and I had to end up coming back. Long and the short of it is, to tell the type of person Mom is, it's sitting in her fridge right now. We had drove back, this was 14 years ago. We had stopped by NASA, because there's NASA out in Houston, and we got a freeze-dried astronaut sandwich. I guess they eat in the space station. It's in her fridge right now. My mom was not known for throwing stuff away. No, she ended up moving after Dad went to be with the Lord. She ended up moving back to Chico here. And Rochelle did touch on it. Man, it was awesome. Because, I mean, I am a mama's boy. Always have been, always will be. I will check that box 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. I got no problem with that. But we got to hang out with Mom. She lives literally a quarter mile from us. So we would have family dinner, and it was the neatest thing. And you're right. Sometimes we would go out to the restaurants, Red Lobster, Olive Garden, Pelican's Roost. But it was just us being together. And man, the relationship she had with Daphne. Oh, I've never seen her more happy. In fact, and this isn't even what I was going to say today, but this morning as I'm getting ready, and Rochelle came here and was getting the flowers, and it was Daphne and I at the house. And she was in her room, and she was kind of quiet and back there for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and she has no TV or anything, and she's quiet. And I walk into her room, and she's just sitting there Indian style. And I walked up to her, and I said, honey, what are you doing? And she said, I miss Nana. And I said, I miss her too, honey. And I said, I've never, ever, ever seen Nana more happy than when she's around you. And she said, the mind of a 4-year-old, said, well, Daddy, you used to make her happy too. And I thought to myself, what a special gift. She teaches me so much. But her and my mom, they were thick as thieves, and I loved it. I could not be happier. As great as Mom was as a mother, as a sister, as a grandmother, when she became a Nana, that completed her. I don't know what it's like being a grandparent. Apparently, that's the cup of tea, but she became a grandparent for Daphne and really, truly made it for her. I've never seen anything like it. Mom kept telling me in the hospital when she was literally passing away those past 2 months that she can't wait for Daphne to grow up and she can't wait for her to go on dates and boys to date her and this and that because she knew what I put her through. And she knew that it was coming right back on me. And she was waiting for that day, and she could not wait. She just kept telling me, I can't wait for her to go to dances and boys to pick her up. I know. The morning Mom went to be with the Lord at 8:18 on May 16th, 2022, Kevin and I showed up at the hospital, and I went to the left-hand side of her bed and held her hand, and Kevin went to the right-hand side, and the machines are going off and getting crazy, and she was a DNR, a do not resuscitate, so we knew going into this what it was. And she said a couple things, and I said, Mom, you're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Us boys will be okay. And I said, your poor body has been through it. These past 7 weeks, I said, there is no shame in what you have done. We're going to be okay. And I said, Mom, Daphne loves you. She looked me in the eyes and she said, I'm going to miss that little girl. And I said, you're going to be with her all the time now, Mom. She had the oxygen on, and we pushed the oxygen down. She looked at the upper left-hand corner of the room, and she had a look on her face that I have never seen in 49 years of life that a human being can make. So content and so happy. I have never, ever seen anything like it. And she was fixated on God. There is no doubt in my mind, none whatsoever. And she saw my dad, and she saw a portal to heaven. She looked up there and was gone about 30 seconds later. There was no struggle. There was no pain. There was no anguish. It was beautiful. In fact, one of my friends was in the room. She was a PA at the time. We stayed with Mom, and they said, so we came out about an hour or two later, and Kelly had said, in this industry, she has seen that moment many, many, many times. And her words are, that was as perfect and as beautiful as I've ever seen it. In closing, first and foremost, I hope that everybody gets an opportunity to go over there. It's fully catered. We got candy. Why do we have candy? Why do we have chocolate milkshakes? Mom passed on a Monday. On a Wednesday, she was in a wheelchair on oxygen, the whole 9 yards. It was pretty bad. And I had left about 10 o'clock to take her to a couple of these doctor's appointments. And I took her to the doctor's appointment, and here and there, and it's about 4 o'clock, and I had to take her back to the rehab. She hated going to the rehab, hated it. And I'm like, Mom, I got to get you back to the rehab. And she goes, well, why can't we have a chocolate shake? And I'm like, Mom, you're saying this right now? It's 4 o'clock. We went to lunch with Daphne and Rochelle. I've been on the clock all day long. Come on, I got to go back. And they say later on in life you revert to a child. And I got to thinking, I never did get her a chocolate shake. And I felt bad because I took her back. That was a Wednesday. She passes on Monday. Life happens what life happens, and God has a plan. I didn't get a chance to get her a chocolate shake, but there is no doubt in my mind. She was pulling the old, putting the kid to bed and wanting to, have to go pee-pee and want another story and just stay up. She just wanted to spend time with me, and I know it. And she didn't say it. So my point is, when we go over there, we're going to have chocolate shakes, and I want you to drink the heck out of them. There's going to be payday bars over there. That was her favorite when she was in the CVU and the ICU. She didn't get a chance to get payday bars. Kevin and I brought them in, but we figured we'd get kicked out for bringing in candy. So above all, I want to thank everyone for being here. I really do. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. I love each and every one of you. And if I didn't hug your neck before, I want to do it before we leave. So God bless you. And again, Pastor, thank you. Thank you.
Well, the family just asked me to just go ahead and close, and so I'm going to take a moment to do so. You've heard about Sharen being a potter. You've heard about her being a co-mom and teaching and how to be an entrepreneur. She was a proud mom of 4, and Paul and Kevin and John and Matt, and that's a good mom. That's a good mom. I've learned much about her today. Heard about John when you're a middle kid, when you have no pictures of yourself by yourself, so you're a middle kid, so that just happens. So John will help you through those days. It'll be okay. Talk about having a cup of tea of grandchildren, and that day will come for you, all right? And you'll get your cup of tea. I have 16 grandchildren. I have no tea left, and so it's all gone. I'm broke, okay? So that's the way that goes. I want to know, Kevin, all the paper out. Did you pay your mom? Don't answer in front of everybody else, all right? But I don't know absolutely not. She was an entrepreneur, that's for sure. My relationship with Sharen is totally different than everybody else here. I'll take just a few moments because I'm not here to tell about her life because I knew her at least anybody else. But I know her now. That's the different part. I met Sharen twice. First at the wedding. And most beautiful pictures right there. And the second time was at the homegoing of your dad. I met her twice. And then I heard that she had a surgery. John called me and said, pray for my mom, and pray for my mom, and pray for my mom. And I do. I'll pray for his mom. And about 2 days before, I said, John, would you like me to come down and pray for your mom? I'll come down there and pray for her. Because you do that. So of course I do that. Sharen was not a church lady. I was not a pastor. I don't think she really ever went to church. And so when I showed up at 5 a.m. in the morning to go pray for her at a surgery, Tamara, she was kind of caught. She was like, well, you're having surgery. I'll pray for you. And so I remember just talking briefly, less than probably 2 or 3 minutes, know the routine, done it thousands of times. And she went to surgery. My second visit was later that day. I just checked up on her. She does not remember that. She was on drugs, so it's okay. And I came the next day. And John and I were walking at the same time. We walked in at the same time, John being the son, me being the pastor that she does not know. We walked in and she goes, hi, Pastor, I'm glad you're back. I felt like, yeah, there you go, John. How you like that, I felt good. I really felt good. And I walked in and she said, I'm sorry, and I apologize. I said, you got nothing to apologize. She says, no, I got to apologize. I don't go to church. I said, it's okay. A lot of people don't go to church. I have a lot of people that come to church who are not in church. I mean, I know all about it, right? I said, it's okay. And she goes, I had a heartache. My son passed away. And John's mouth just dropped. She hadn't talked about this for years to no one. So I got to talk about it. And it's amazing God used physical needs to let her go in and just outpour her emotional needs. She had a tough time. She loved all 4 of you. And she lost one. It's life. It happens. You have to deal with it. I listened to her, and I came back the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Brought her a chocolate milkshake. We were buddies now. We were doing good, all right? We're doing good. It's amazing because a physical need went to an emotional need, an emotional need went to a spiritual need. That's why we're here. Everyone comes here and says, where is she? We all say she's in heaven. Heaven's not a given. Heaven's a choice. I want everyone to know that. Heaven's not a given. Heaven's a choice. God does not make someone go to heaven. God does not hold them out. And so after, I don't know, my 15th, 20th visit, I did not count them. But I can tell you the day, it was March 30th, and in room 2237, I've been praying for Sharen every single day, heard of her heartaches, heard of her emotions. And so I was sitting by the bedside. She liked that. And I'd sit there and I'd hold her hand and we'd talk a little bit. And I said, Sharen, you know you about checked off this earth, didn't you? She said, I did. I said, where'd you go? She said, I don't know. I said, well, if you leave this earth, where do you go? She said, I don't know. I said, well, there's only a couple of options. And she goes, I know. I said, would you like me to help you? She goes, sure. And so I pull my chair up aside, and I can actually show you the very Bible I use. I have her name written down on it. I said, Sharen, it's really pretty easy. God said these words. I'll quote them. Let not your heart be troubled. If you believe in God, believe also in me, said Jesus. For in my Father's house are many mansions. I love this statement. And if it were not so, I'd tell you so. I like when God says, you can believe me, I'm telling the truth. And God said, if it wasn't true, I'd tell you. But whither I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, there may ye be also. And Sharon's listening. I said, Sharen, the Bible says right here, you can know for sure you're going to heaven. She says, I want to know. Well, then it says, and Jesus says, and where I go, and whither I go, you can know the way. And a man asked Jesus, said, Jesus, we don't know the way. What are you talking about? And Jesus said these words, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man come to the Father which is in heaven but by me. I said, that's why they call him the Savior. He saves people's lives. Jesus Christ, God, came in a man form, born of a virgin, lived a sinless life, lived on this earth 33 and a half years, never sinned one time, never did anything wrong. But he did that so on his death he can make a way for us. And Sharon's love. She said, I want that. I want that. And that day, March 30th, 2022, Sharen asked Jesus Christ to be her Savior. Should have seen that big old face right there. It was amazing. It was just amazing. And so we visited, and then they got to call, Kevin and John called me the day of her passing. And it just so happened to be the same day my mother passed, May 16th. And so we share a common date. So to finish up, I'm here to simply say, you know something? You don't know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but Sharen was prepared. She was prepared. She knew exactly where she's going. She had made her plans. She had asked Christ to be her Savior. I have to do this, and that's why I've been asked to speak. She said, make sure you tell everybody else where I am. Because when we come here, we don't do this very often. We don't get around. People have deceased. And so we ask, well, where is she? Where is she? Well, I can tell you for sure where she's at, but she made her reservation. Second question we ask is, where would I be? If something happened to me today, where would I be? Well, you can ask that exact same Jesus, that he is the way, the truth, and life, and say, will you be my Savior so I know heaven's my home? 30-second illustration make a lot of sense. I love amusement parks because I like all the junk food. I love it. You ever see healthy folks that always go to those healthy places? They look like they're dying, don't they? You know, so they're going to live 6 months more eating the food they don't like to eat. All right, I'd just rather go to heaven tomorrow, amen. Give me the ice cream and I'm ready to go, okay? So let's just all picture ourselves at an amusement park going down there. We all drive down there. We got to get in line. I don't like lines. And we're waiting to get inside the gate. We're all talking. Sharon's there. Paul's there. Kevin, John. We're all just there. And the ticket man sticks his head on the booth and he waves us on. Well, I thought he was talking about me because I'm the pastor. I brought the group down, and he shook his head, and I was in dismay. And John, no. Kevin, no. And Sharen raised her hand and said, yeah. And Sharen walks to the front of the whole line. The guy in the ticket booth gives her a ticket. She hops inside the amusement park, gets a cotton candy, gets an ice cream, hops on the merry-go-round, and she's having the time of her life. That's where she's at. And we're still waiting in line, and we're not in yet. May I say this? That same ticket man has your ticket too. And if you want to see Sharen again today, there's only one way to go there. And that's not narrow-minded. That just makes it easy for us. Don't ever call yourself guilty. Don't think you should have done more. You can't. God took Mom home to heaven just the day he wanted to. And that's where she's at. She's having the time of her life. Let her enjoy it. But don't miss seeing her. Don't miss seeing her. Lastly, you heard about a good lady today, and she was. Don't let her pass. Let her live inside of you. The entrepreneurship, that co-mothering, that mom who always took care of you, the mom who restores relationships, does all she can. I don't even like to use the word die. Don't let it die. Let her live through you. Make this place a better world. Father in heaven, I do love this family. I remember Floyd going to heaven, saying a few words in Woodland. I remember the wedding well, very well. I met some people here. Then I remember Sharen all the days in the hospital, all those days. She was so kind. I think sometimes Pastor made her nervous, and we got over that very quickly. But the greatest day of her life, and she met the Savior. I pray today that you be comforted. You heard about a good lady. You'll carry the trace on. But you in your own heart, God will not make you go to heaven, and he will not stop you from coming. But you have to ask him. And that March 30th day, Sharen asked. I pray you do likewise. Father, we have a celebration of life. We can have a little dinner together, tell some good stories, and reminisce. But may one day we tell those stories together. Bless these people here. For Christ's sake, I pray with thanksgiving. Amen. The family would like for me to just cordially invite you that once we exit this building, just go drive across or walk across and to the CLC Christian Life Center. And they have a dinner catered there for you, seating, pleasantness, and you get to tell all your stories and enjoy yourself that way. And so I pray you to do so. I said at the beginning, I'll say at the end, no one forgets people who genuinely care. These folks will never forget you. And so from the oldest to the youngest, they want to say thank you for being their guests today. We appreciate it. That'll conclude this service today, please.